That was Packers quarterback Jordan Love on Robert Saleh being around the team. Robert Saleh and Coach Matt LaFleur, basically best friends. Saleh will be a consultant, it sounds like, in some capacity with the Packers offense. Don't know how much they need because Jordan Love's been phenomenal, and he's on top of the Love list here as he's got Jacksonville.
It is
what
interesting, right? So I was just going to say, so the Jets get Aaron Rodgers from the Packers, and then they send Robert Saleh to the Packers. They didn't send him, but like he winds up there. Robert Saleh winds up there.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just interesting. I feel like one of them is going to be in the postseason at least this year. Which one do you think it'll be?
Probably will be the Packers.
Yeah,
considering my long shot 2 weeks ago was them being the number 1 seed in the NFC. I think with or without Robert Saleh.
I think you're right. I think you are. I think you're right. It's weird.
Surprising that he's gone to Green Bay to help with the offense as opposed to going to like San Francisco to help with the beleaguered defense.
A little bit on that front, but I think both coaches are being careful with their DCs not being undermined.
Sure.
Because they're both first-year DCs,
Yeah.
and Saleh's just better than both of them. That's the reality. So if you bring in Saleh and say, help out with the defense, it's kind of tough because it's like, a guy that you like more than me might be taking my job soon.
Yeah, and if you're Robert Saleh, you're like, I want to keep my options open. I want to keep my kind of my foot in the door sort of thing. But like, see what happens in the offseason because I think he comes out of the Jets situation, especially given what's happened since he's left.
Right.
Looking pretty good. You know what I mean?
He'll be a top DC candidate.
100%.
He's close with Mike McDaniel. He's close with LaFleur. He's close with Shanahan. Those are 3 jobs that you could fall in worse places.
1,000%. So yeah, and I think it makes sense where he's going to help the offense figure out how to attack the defense.
Yeah.
Whatever. Saleh's, Anyway, so we'll see how that all plays out. But one thing that I think, regardless of what Robert Saleh is going to do, is I think he's going to get there and say, hey, that Jordan Love guy, you should let him just keep doing what he's doing because he's been awesome and he's going to continue to be awesome. I have him as a top 4 fantasy quarterback against the Jaguars. You see it right there on your screen. Every game he's played this year, he's had multiple touchdown passes, right? No team in the NFL has given up more passing touchdowns than your Jacksonville Jaguars, producer Steven. Of the 7 quarterbacks that have faced the Jags so far, only Deshaun Watson didn't score 18 points. Literally every quarterback that faces the Jags has scored at least 18 fantasy points except Deshaun Watson. What does it have to do with Jordan Love? Not a lot. It's just fun to mention that, again, the Browns are paying $250 million to a guy that couldn't score 18 fantasy points against the Jaguars in a case where everyone else has. Drake May has. So we expect Jordan Love to go off over the past 4 weeks, by the way. No team gives up more passing yards per game than Steven's Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jordan Love at QB4. Not behind him, Jay, is Joe Burrow at QB6. The Bengals ranked 2nd in pass rate over expected this season. Burrow's been phenomenal.
Yeah, he's been magnificent. He himself has played at an MVP level, even if the team, or specifically the defense, hasn't around him. Cincinnati, they're 2nd in pass rate over expectation this season, so they are throwing the ball a ton. And I think that he's gone up against some tough defenses recently that have deflated his stats a little bit. No, they're not the defense they were last year, but the Browns still no pushover. The Giants' defense as well is perfectly solid. I think the Eagles' pass defense is weaker than both of those units.
Yeah, by the way, quarterbacks that have thrown at least 28 times against the Eagles this year are averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. And, given how pass-heavy the Bengals have been so far this year, they're 6th in overall pass rate. We expect Burrow to have a lot of success against the Philadelphia Eagles, right? By the way, Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, all the quarterbacks that threw at least 28 pass attempts against Philadelphia had multiple touchdown passes. Joe Burrow is my QB6 this week. Proud Fantasy Life investor, Joe Burrow, as he's known in these streets.
Okay.
How about Caleb Williams coming in on the Love list? 20.5 points per game over his last 4 games. He's been QB7 in points per game since week 3. He's a top 10 play this week, Matthew.
Yeah, he is. I really hope Jaden Daniels is healthy because it would be great to see these 2 guys go head-to-head. But I will say, regardless of whether Daniels plays or not, Caleb Williams should have success against the Commanders, who, as quarterbacks that face Washington, are completing 70% of their passes. They allow touchdown passes at the 4th highest rate. And over his last 4 games, very quietly, Caleb Williams is the 7th best quarterback in fantasy football, getting you points with his arms and his legs. Despite the fact I talked up their defense early in the show, I do expect Caleb Williams to be a top 10 play this week.
Yeah, there have been some accusations of Caleb Williams being a bad defense merchant and that he's lit up bad defenses. Well, he plays the Commanders and the Cardinals the next 2 weeks, so what does it really matter? And we get that the Commanders' defense has been more competent lately, but no one's confusing that for the Vikings defense or whatever. So Caleb Williams should continue to cook.
Yes.
We've reached a point in society where no one can have success without an excuse.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
slot merchant,
Yeah.
bad defense merchant, this merchant, that.
Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes apparently isn't good anymore.
Guess
He
what?
has
It all
8
counts
picks.
in fantasy.
Yeah, you're on NBC. No one cares about you, Barry, but you're on NBC, so fair enough.
Others receiving votes, Bo Nix, right behind Caleb Williams. He's QB 11.
Yes.
He's got the Panthers. Tua's back. He's got the Cardinals. A good landing matchup for Tua. And Sam Darnold on Thursday Night Football, which we will preview in just a moment here. He's got the Rams, all 3 guys in the top 15, Matthew.
The Rams have allowed the second most touchdowns and the 4th most yards on deep passes, and Sam Darnold, who's got a couple of deep threats in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, even Jalen Naylor. I think Darnold's going to have success. I think he's a top 15 play tonight. You see Tua there. Assuming he plays and comes back this week, Cardinals allow the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And then Bo Nix. I don't know what the quarterback version of a PPR scam artist is when it comes to running back, but he's basically the same thing because it's all the rushing, but he's now had back-to-back games with at least 60 rushing yards, and there's been only one game this year where the Panthers have not allowed multiple touchdown passes. It's a bad defense, games on the road. Bo Nix is a top 12 play this week.
Yep, stealing this from Jacob Gibbs on Twitter, but he had the good point that Bo Nix this year has 10 scrambles with no pressure. No other quarterback has more than 6. So Bo Nix is just taking off.
running.
Yeah,
he's
he's just running.
All right, I'm out.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's
great
worked
for
for him.
fantasy.
It's
has.
worked for him.
By the way, shout out to Jacob Gibbs. He does a
does a
really
great
good
job.
job. He does a really good job.
Stuff he tracks,
Yep.
without a doubt. I'll tell you what, why fantasy managers are happy that Tua's back, I don't think anyone is happier or more happy than Tyreek Hill. We got to hear from Tyreek on the return of his quarterback this weekend.
Just having Tua back will get us back, man. Having Tua back, man. He's a big part of this team, bro. He's the franchise, dog. And anybody that doesn't see that or doesn't believe it, go to another team. I could care less right now, man. But like I said, I miss the dude, bro. This whole team misses him, bro.
Tyreek, what would you tell people who have you in fantasy but might be a little frustrated from the 6 games?
We're back, baby. Strike up the band. We're back, baby. Start me this week, baby. Let's go.
So that I don't know if you could hear the question. The question was, what would you tell people that have you in fantasy? And Tyreek Hill says, "We back, baby.
It was very
Start
clear.
me."
He had a little thought, all right, I can't throw Tyler Huntley under the bus entirely,
Yeah,
but
right.
we are back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he basically said it like he's a big part. We need him back. I miss him.
Yeah.
Really, you haven't had fun with Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle under center? Really, Tyreek?
It's baffling that it was that bad for Tyreek and Waddle the past month. I get the Tua was out, but I don't understand how they couldn't
they
throw
were
him
irrelevant.
screen passes or something. It's very strange.
But we are, all of us in fantasy football are very excited to have Tua Tagovailoa back. It's surprising that he wants to come back and that he's not going to wear a Guardian cap, but, we support him in whatever he wants to do, and we hope for the best health-wise with Tua. But for our show, where we deal only in fantasy football, fire up your Dolphins, and including, I think Tua is a viable streamer this week, a top 12 play against the Cards.
2 passers make the hate list. Dak Prescott, San Francisco's allowed 1 or fewer touchdown passes in 5 straight games. Trevor Lawrence, over their past 3 games, Green Bay is only allowing 5.7 yards per pass attempt. Brutal matchup for both guys, Matthew.
We talked about Dak Prescott yesterday in Keep It Open, Close It Out. Jay, you weren't here, but we decided to close it out on Dak. Once we were done trashing you, we moved on to Dak Prescott, and we just talked about how much we don't like him against the Niners, who have allowed 1 or fewer touchdown passes in 5 straight games. His last 2 games at San Francisco, including that playoff game, right? He had 4.3 fantasy points and 10.4 fantasy points, and I think you could argue that the offenses he played with in those 2 games, each of the last 2 years, a lot better than what the Cowboys currently look like. So Dak Prescott outside my top 15 for the week.
Yep.
So
And he gets eviscerated every time he plays San Francisco.
Yes.
Better or worse.
We have quite the resume of
Yeah,
this.
it
here.
always goes badly. Yeah.
You know what time it is?
It's benching Trevor Lawrence time.
Well, it's been that for a couple of weeks.
It has been. The only quarterback to score 17 or more fantasy points against the Packers this year is Sam Darnold. Over the past 3 games, the Packers are allowing under 6 yards per pass attempt. They're allowing touchdown passes at the 5th lowest rate during that stretch of the last 3 games. So Trevor Lawrence, who's been up and down for him this year, I don't think he's even a top 20 play. I'm a QB 23, which means in a 12-team 2-quarterback league in a week with no teams on a bye, I don't even think he's a starter in a 2-quarterback league this week.
Yep, agreed. Packers moved Evan Williams into their starting safety role as well, who's been awesome, so their defense is getting better and better.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.